Hi there, Jamie Keat here today at Teachers Tech. Hope you're having a great day today. Today we're going to take a look at Shotcut. Shotcut is a free video editor, very simple to use free video editor. It's cross-platform. I've been doing a lot of tutorials lately on free editors. If you want to check out some other ones, make sure you check out the playlist here in the card or check down below in the description. I have other links to them too. So I'm going to go through a beginner's tutorial of Shotcut here today, going through everything that you need to do to create if you're using it for YouTube or just for other uses to create a simple video project here, but going over many of the different parts. I'm going to timestamp everything so you can just go down below in the description, click to different parts. If you want to come back and not exactly know where to go, just click the timestamp and you'll get there. So let's get started on this beginner's tutorial of Shotcut today. So if you want to download Shotcut, just go to shotcut.org. I'll put the download link down in below too, and you can see click to download here. It's going to ask you what operating system. Just follow the instructions and download. On today's tutorial, I'm using Windows 10. So we get that downloaded, and then you can start playing around with Shotcut. I have it open right here. So if you open Shotcut and it looks like this, a lot of the windows and different things aren't open on it. So when I opened mine, it just looked like this on default. But to quickly change things around, if you go up to view up here, you can open different things on your display here. So if I wanted my timeline where I would be doing my work with tracks, if I click on it, you can see now it's open here. If I wanted to see my properties, and if I go to properties, now it's over here on the left. Now, so you can just simply click them and it will just appear on it. You have a few different options. You can move these around too. So if I go to, make sure you have show title bars on, which I do right now, you get these handles. So you notice I can close it down, but I can also move it. So if I wanted to move it, to have it floating, or maybe move it to a different monitor, and if I was on a dual monitor, I could do that. If you want to put it back in place, you could just drag it down and notice how it turns blue, and I drop it and it locks back in place. So you can move these different windows to get whatever gets things the most efficient for you. Couple other settings to look at if you're just looking under languages, you can just pick the language that works best for you. So go through, get things set up the way you want before you start importing media. And that's what I'm going to do right now. So with importing media to this, you just go ahead and hit open file. And you can go to that media. So I'm going to show you a couple different ways to do this. So if I was looking for my Shotcut here, I'll pick this first one and hit open, and you can see here it is, and this is playing in my source window right here because I haven't started my project yet. Notice right here I have source and project. When I start bringing things into my timeline, I'll be able to switch back and forth to see each of these. Now I imported that one media clip into it right here. If you wanted to change how large, notice right here I can drag this up here. As you maybe add more tracks, you might want to change the size. I can move this around to get it perfect the way I want to work. Now, how do I like to import my media? I like to do it like this. So I imported this one right here already, but let's say if I was selecting multiple ones, I'll just pick all of these ones right here. I can just simply drag them over and it's going to populate over here. I'll just make this larger again. So I've imported my different media in here. You can see as it comes in here, now it's all ready for where I can start adding tracks and bringing it down so I can get ready to editing after that. And now let's bring our media down into our timeline so we can start working on our project. If you look down below, there's no tracks. A lot of times with video editors, you'll start with an audio or video. There'll be a number of tracks right below. Now, there's a couple different ways I can do this. I could just simply take, let's take this Earth one that I'm already on, and I'm going to just drag it into my timeline, and it's going to create a video track for me. Now, I could create my tracks also before that too. So if I go ahead and click here, you can see I can add audio tracks and video tracks here. So if I wanted to insert another video track, I could go ahead like this, and I have another one here. And if I wanted to insert a audio track, I could do that. So you could set up your tracks before you drag anything down. So you might know how many tracks you need. You can just go ahead and create them. Now you can also just simply right click anywhere. If I right click, notice how we have the same options from hitting there too. So it gives you the same things. Just looking at the tracks here. So I'm just going to play this. So I'm going to scrub over top of it here. So I have my playhead, and you can see now this is the project window. So now I'm under the project. This was the source to view these type of media over here. If I go ahead and hit play, I could view it here, or I could just bring the playhead over and just scrub it over and kind of see what's happening there. I'm going to bring in a few more things here. So this time I'm going to bring in a intro. I'll bring in my intro. I'm going to drop it into this track here. You can see I can drag it, so I can click and drag these around and set them up where I want to. If I wanted to bring in some audio, I'll bring it down to below this. So right now I have thumbnails clicked on and the wave, so it looks like this. But again, if you right click, notice right here I have show audio waveforms and thumbnails. I could unclick those and it will disappear. I like having those on because it gives me an idea what's kind of happening with the volume levels and everything in here. So like I said, you can drag these around here. I'll bring in another clip. This is just an image here. So if I bring in an image, I can put it to either track that I want. I'll put it in, actually I'll put it this right here. So you can see I can drag this around. So that's how you bring your media into your tracks, and then you can just simply move it around to set up to get ready for some editing. Before I start doing some trimming and cutting here, I just want to show you some options with the tracks. You can simply click on these. If you wanted to mute your tracks, you can click these off. So sometimes like in this, you notice if I'm dragging the play or hitting play, maybe I don't want to hear certain audio to it, I can go ahead and mute it. That loud noise from this one is from the audio track down here. I can go and mute it. So now I didn't delete anything. I could be working on something now and I won't be hearing it. So go ahead and just simply mute it. The other thing is you can hide, so maybe a certain track you didn't want to see, and this works well if you're working with layers and overlays. You could hide a certain track and then you'll be only able to see, I'll put the volume down on that one, and then you'll only be able to see the one. So you can just hit the eye again and it's back on. The other nice thing is if you have a track you don't want to mess around with, you know it's perfect and everything is in perfect place, and you don't want to make a mistake by cutting or moving it, just hit the lock here. So when you hit the lock, notice how these lines go across showing its lock. The green just shows kind of the whole length of the project or the gaps in between. You can see how the green goes to the end of this audio, or it fills in the spaces between the selected track. So if I select a different track, you can see how it just fills in the spaces to the length of the project here. Another important feature, what I like to use here, I'll turn off my lock, is this zoom. So maybe you want to get look up to get closer and closer to a certain area. You can go ahead and zoom up, and you're getting a different look to it. So maybe you want to get to a specific part of a clip when we trim it. Use this back and forth. So just simply drag, or you can hit the plus or the minus on the little magnifying glass to get it the way that you want to do. I happen to use that quite a bit when I'm working on these projects here. So let's talk about some basic trimming and cutting here too. And I think with Shotcut, to me, it's one of the easiest ones to use. Maybe it doesn't have all the features, but this is a great beginner's program with some good effect tools that I'll make sure you stay around, because I'll show you those a little later, like green screen and just adding other effects to it. But if I go to this, let's say the earth, I can just simply trim off of it by grabbing the ends here, right here. So if I drag it back, I'm cutting it from the end part. So I just made that shorter by just dragging the end. So you can grab the left or the right and just drag it in, and you're gonna cut it. Now, another thing that you can do is use this tool right here, which is the split at the playhead. So if I click on this, I'm going to undo. And do remember, Control Z on your Windows or Command Z will undo. I didn't mean to hit that, so I'm going to undo up here. But remember the shortcuts too. And many of these have shortcuts to know all the different ones. If I go back over here, notice that it shows what letter to hit. It says split at playhead S. So if you're using this lots, the shortcuts do help a lot. So if I drag the playhead to a certain spot, let's say we'll go back to this right here. Now, where we cut this, we want to make sure we're on the right track. So if I want to be on this one, this is the one I want to cut. So if I was clicking down here, I'm on the audio one. So if I wanted to cut this, if I go ahead and click this, split at playhead, I've just put a cut in here. Now I have some options here. What I can do is if I wanted this gone, I can just simply click on the clip that I cut out, hit the scissors, or I could hit delete, and you can see it just kind of got rid of that gap there. The other thing what I could do if I select it, if I hit the this minus remove from current and slide, it will get rid of it too. So you have a couple different options of you could just delete. Sometimes the delete will leave the gap, but in this if you didn't want to have the gap, so if up here, if I was clicking up here and I wanted to have, let's move my playhead over, I'm going to cut here and I'm going to cut again just right here. So if I hit in the middle and hit delete, notice the gap is there. So to save some time, I'll just undo here. If you hit this minus, notice it gets rid of the gap and moves everything to the left. That closes it too. So something you might save you some time rather than dragging everything around. The snap tool here, when you're moving these different things, different clips around, the snap tool, so notice when I drag around, it just floats over top really easily. If I want to snap to the end of a certain one, if you use the snap tool, and you can see it's on now, when I bring it over, it's just going to snap very, very quickly. So that's good. I leave that on a lot of the times. You can still force it to go over, but when you're trying to line up clips, it's handy to have on because it will just snap to the edge there. I'm just going to undo here to get back, because I want to show you another thing with some basic editing here. So I've showed you how to do some trimming. So we've split and we've cut. The other thing you can change is duration, so how fast the clip is. So if I look at this intro, I'm just going to drag it down. It's really slow. So this intro is around 10 seconds right now, and I usually only play it at about 3 seconds. See how slow? Okay, so if I click on the clip, and I make sure I use my properties, and make sure you, this is where you can change each clip's attributes very, very quickly here. Well, make sure I have properties on here. Click on properties, and notice we have speed right here, and it says 10 seconds is the total duration of this clip. But if I change the speed rate, so if I wanted to go faster here, I'm going to put this to just 3 times here, and I'll hit enter. And you can see how it shortened the clip. If I just click in the front, I'll hit play, and you can see it's much faster here. So if you're adding, make sure if you're playing with the properties, click on the clip that you're working on, and the properties will connect to it, so you can make that quick adjustment of speed here. So let's go on to the next section with showing you some more things how to change up your video. All right, now I'm going to show you how to do some transitions and some fade-ins and fade-outs. I'm just going to bring this up a little bit so it's a little better visually. Bring in one of my tracks, just drag it right down, let it create a video track here. Now I'm going to need a second clip. I'm going to do a transition between these 2 clips. Here's the surfer one, bring it down right to here. Notice there's a gap right here. I'm just going to bring it closer like this. So right now it just would play from one clip to the other. If I hit play, it just jumps back and forth. If I drag them over top of each other, notice it creates this. This is the transition. So the transition, if I play this again, I'll hit play, you can see a transition between the nice smooth cross dissolve on it. I can change the length if I wanted that to be a shorter amount of time. You can see how I can change the duration to it like so. You can adjust the transition to pick a different one. If I click on the transition here and go up to properties, now you use properties, remember, on all the clips and different things to make adjustments. you see where it says video and dissolve? Right here, I can pick different transitions. So I can go ahead and let's say if I wanted barn door vertical, if I pick it, now if I hit play, I have barn door vertical. So you get really easy to change, and you have a few other different options to play with to add transitions. Now, one problem that happens sometimes is, I'm just going to go back a few steps. If you try to just drag it over top, notice there's a gap here. If I try to drag it right over top, it just snaps back. It doesn't allow me to do it. You have to remove the gaps first before you can do the transition. So if it's the green area right here, if I right click and hit remove, I can drag over top and the transition is created on it. So just something to remember if you're having troubles with that snapping back, just to remove the gap first on it here. So the next thing I want to do is just show some fade ins and fade outs here. And this is working with filters. So if I go ahead and click on a clip, and let's say I want to fade out on this one, I'm going to go to a filter right up top here, click on filter. I'm going to hit the plus, and that's it, adding a filter to this particular clip that I have selected. And I'm looking for fade in, fade out. All these ones with the stars right now are my favorites. So you can see the star favorites. These are all of them right here. I happen to have the fade in, fade out, you can see for audio and video right here in my favorites. So if I said fade out in video and I select it, and then I want to make sure, I'm going to go hit another one here, and I'm going to go say fade in video. So I've added one at the beginning, and I want, oh, I keep on hitting the wrong one here, fade out. So I've added fade out and a fade in. Now, if I hit play here, I'll just hit play, and you can see it fade out. I can change the length of this. If I click up right up on top, I'll go back to the clip here, grab this little flashing black circle, and I can create a longer fade out on it, so you can make some adjustments to it. The other thing to just make sure you can do the same thing to audio with those clips like I had before. If you just bring your audio down below, you can add the filters through here. So we're going to go on and do a little bit more with text now and some other special effects inside Shotcut here. When you add text in Shotcut, you're going to need to add it to a clip. So for instance, this one right here, I'm going to click on this clip. It's going to be under the filters, so I got to make sure I have filters on, and then hit the plus. Now I have it again. Usually I keep it in my favorites here, so I'm going to look for text. If not, click over here, and then we're going to go insert text in this right here at the beginning. It was my favorites, I just didn't see it. So I click on text. Now at this point I can type something, so I'm just going to type something right here. So I'll just say example right here. So I'm going to click off of it. Oh, make sure I'm over top. You got to make sure my playhead moved there. So I'm going to be on top of here. So you can see how it says example. I'm just going to stretch this window so I can see a little bit more of all the information. Remember again how your windows can be moved around to be able to see things better for you to work. So you can see I wrote the word example. Here it is right here. I could grab the corners. If I wanted it smaller, you can see, and then grab the circle. I can move it around in different places. When I do that, if you notice over here, the numbers are changing. So I put the numbers in over here to move it, or I can adjust it here by kind of eyeing it and getting it to the size that I would like. We have from our font, you can see how I can pick some different colors. I also have an outline. Right now the thickness is 0, so let's maybe a white, and I'm going to increase the thickness here. And you can see as I increase it, you can see it more on it. Again, a font style, if you wanted a different one to go through. Again, I showed you position on it. So now the thing is that that font is attached to that clip. So maybe you don't want a clip, the whole thing. So if you had a really long clip, you might not want to add font for everything on there. So what you can do, so if I was using an example on, let's click on a different clip here. What you can do is take a certain part and clip out. So if I could make a clip, let's say I'm going to cut right here, and I'm going to move here. And if I knew I wanted, this is where I wanted my font, I could now select this clip and add the filters to it, and go ahead and go get my text that I have here again. And now I'm just adding it to that one clip. So you could select a certain part, trim it, or cut it out, and then just have the text appear on this. So I'll just type example here again for you and make sure you're over top so you can see it. Now, if I go over top of it here and hit play, you can see it's only going to show during that duration of it. So that's how you go ahead and add some text to your screen, to your different clips in Shotcut. And now I'm going to move on and work with some special effects with green screen and just adding some other filters to it. So let's work with a little special effects now. I'm going to just drag this surfer video down into a track here so it creates one. I'll start by just adding an effect to it. So I make sure it's clicked on. I go up to my filters and hit the plus, and I'll just start with a blur. So if I go to my blur, I'll make sure I go to them all. My blur is right here. It's not listed as a favorite. Click on it. Now I can add some blur by adjusting these here. So you can see the image becomes more blurry as I adjust these here. Now if I go ahead and hit play, you can see the adjustment that it's made through adding the blur. Now what you can also do is you can add multiple effects to the same clip. So if I go through and if I wanted to go to brightness now and make an adjustment, now you can see I can click off the blur and only the brightness is there, or vice versa on it here. So if you hit play, you get to see both of them. Remember how when I worked with the text, you could cut out a certain part of it. So if you wanted to add the effects, you can just trim it or cut on each side and add the effects to that one little piece here. So let's continue. And I want to do one more effect before we get to exporting, and that's just using green screen or chroma key in this one. So I'm going to insert, let's just go back to my playlist. I'm just going to bring down this right here. So I brought this down in the track. I'm going to insert a brand new video track, so it's on top. I'm going to bring down my chickens that I use a lot in my videos for green screen. So you can see the chickens here. If I hit play, it's a video, and I need to get rid of the green so that it looks like they're on the beach. So what I do here is make sure I have this one selected, go up to my filters, hit the plus, and I'm looking this time for chroma key. You can see chroma key advanced. I'm going to use this one, has more options, and I'm going to pick pick a color, and I'm just going to go over to near the chickens and click, and the background is gone. So you can see there's some adjustments that could be made. You could play through here and make some adjustments where we'll clean it up a little bit more and more, and just take some time of it to get it as good as you can. Now you can keep adding more effects to this. If I go to my size, if I wanted to go to size and position, if I wanted to take those chickens and move them, make them smaller, and maybe move them over to a certain spot, and now you can see if I hit play, they're on the beach eating here. This, as soon as I click off it, this would be here too. So that's just using chroma key and a few different effects on it here. Remember with overlays that you can make the videos smaller up top, so you can kind of do a picture-in-picture just by doing that size and transformation, moving it just like I did with the chickens. So let's say you get this video all finished, you want to export it, maybe bring it over to YouTube. Let's take a look at the finishing touches to get this video all done. Okay, let's say this was the finished movie here, and I know it's not very good, but for an example, we'll say it's the final thing that I want to upload and put out as a file. So I'm going to hit export right up here. And when I hit export, you can see that there's some custom settings. You can go through and kind of look at maybe the specific settings that you need to maybe where you're going to be playing it from or uploading it to. So these are all presets that you can pick. As you pick any of these, it will show you right through here. So at any time though, you can go through, you can see with the different resolutions and how you can change here. We have aspect ratio. Mine I'd keep at least 1920 by 1080p on it. So when you get everything set up, you can see where do you want to export it from. Well, it's the timeline down below. So I'd go through and select that for this one, in the case the project that I was working. When you have it all done, hit export file. You're going to pick a place where you want it. So if I wanted to go back into that file, I'll give it a name. I'll just call this finish, and I'll hit save. So now it's exporting that movie, and it wouldn't take very long to export it. And then it would have it done, and then you could go through and upload. So if you're logging into YouTube, you could just drag and drop it into your upload feature with YouTube, or grab it. You can see over on the right hand side as it's going through and processing it, but that's going to be your final step. So I hope you liked this video today. I do these weekly tech tips. I've been focusing a lot on the free editors. I'm going to start looking at some maybe free screencasting apps here also right away. So if you're interested in all this stuff with YouTube help, make sure you hit that subscribe button. I'll put out a lot more videos on it. So thanks for watching this week. If you have liked this, make sure you share the video. I'll talk to you next time. Have a good week.